Alright everyone, we start off today of course with the Merchan v. Trump case. Merchan saying, well, Mr. Trump, we can't have you violating your gag order anymore. Here's a simple fine, but next time I might throw you in jail and I put you in Rikers or something. Eric Adams apparently thinks that's where Trump would go. And that would go over real well. It would look a little bit like Elba Island and Napoleon Bonaparte. I've pointed that out several times. I'm going to read you this quote from Donald Trump the other day verbatim. Link in the description, archived of course to a news article covering it, but it has the entire quote. Here's President Trump on Truth Social yesterday responding to the situation. It's a really bad feeling to have your constitutional right to free speech, such a big part of our life in our country, so unfairly taken from you, especially when all the sleazebags, lowlives, and grifters that you oppose are allowed to say absolutely anything that they want. It's hard to sit back and listen to lies and false statements be made against you, knowing that if you respond, even in the most modest fashion, you are told by a corrupt and highly conflicted judge that you will be put in prison, maybe for a long period of time. This fascist mindset is all coming from D.C. It is a sophisticated hit job on crooked Joe Biden's political opponent. Me! Judges Engeron and Kaplan, also of New York, are equally corrupt, only in different ways. What these thugs are doing is an attack on the Republican Party and our once great nation itself. Our First Amendment must stand free and strong. Give me liberty or give me death. By the way, a nice kill shot at the end there. Also literally the slogan of the state of New Hampshire. Wondering if that wasn't part of the point. It is true that Merchan is abusing his authority as a judge. The gag order under the conditions that we find ourselves in, with Trump being a presidential candidate, are unconstitutional. It is a persecution attempt, and it is blatant. And I think that most voters understand this. The TDS sufferers understand it too, but they look the other way because they genuinely think that Orange Man bad. He obviously did something wrong. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime, blah, blah, blah. Even though the case itself is relatively weak, and all the other cases seem to be on indefinite hold at the moment. You've got an appeal with the Letitia James case. That could last forever. You've got a literal indefinite hold on the Jack Smith persecution case, the Mar-a-Lago documents case. And in Fulton, we're not sure what's going to happen. With the Georgia Court of Appeals hearing whether Fani Willis is even allowed to stay on the case, it could simply collapse. So this is basically their best shot is a case in which one of the star witnesses rambled endlessly about sex, basically on the witness stand, despite that not even being pertinent to the charges. The case is falling apart. I strongly suspect there's a good chance that Trump skates on every charge in all four cases. Maybe not the civil case, but that doesn't really matter. That's a civil matter, not a criminal one. Has nothing to do with a criminal charge. This is effectively nuking Merchan from orbit because now he's forced Merchan saying he's calling the judge corrupt. Part of the gag order, he's not supposed to criticize the court in any way, which is, again, it's unconstitutional. It's a violation of the First Amendment. And on appeal, this could go all the way to the Supreme Court if he is found guilty on a charge anyway, which I don't think that they care because that would they're hoping that would keep him from being reelected. I'm still looking forward to the possibility that Donald Trump ends up under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago and ends up triumphantly winning anyway, and then comes out smiling to the cameras and, all chaos breaks loose, basically. You know that the Uniparty will refuse to work with him if he's reelected, by the way. Their last strategy will be just nothing more than naked obstruction. We can expect that. Plenty of Republicans will be willing to go along with it, the core nines of the party. So Trump will, as we discussed yesterday on the live stream that the Quartering had that I'm co-host to, we discussed the fact that, and he pointed out he's correct, now Trump will have to rule by executive order in part, except where there's already a legal precedent that he can do things. So diplomacy, that's fine. As far as the border, he can use discretionary spending. That won't be a problem because there's a federal court precedent in his favor. That happened in the twilight of his first administration. I strongly suspect he'll be reelected based on all the metrics that I see. He's effectively poking Merchan saying, do it. Yeah, I dare you. I double dog dare you. Merchan now has two choices. He can ignore this particular statement and just not raise a fuss. And he's probably hoping the prosecution doesn't bitch about it too much because then he has to consider it. Or simply say, well, here's the roundabout, convoluted reason this doesn't violate the gag order. That's his cop-out. If he does that, it'll be hilarious. He might very well be stupid enough to do that. Or he can just fine Trump again in which case it's like, hey, my court lacks the balls to actually do anything to stop you from speaking, and that'll be basically the green light for Trump to do and say whatever he wants. That'll be funny. Or he can put him in jail. Yes, he can send him to Rikers for a month or something like that. That would not look good. Not for the court, and not for the case, and certainly not for the Uniparty. If anything, it'll generate a strong sympathy vote for Donald Trump, and so Merchan is in a lose-lose situation. Again, the only real exit ramp he has is to ignore these things that are happening entirely and simply not raise the specter of it violating the gag order. If that does happen, if Merchan doesn't consider this to be a violation in any way, Trump will probably do it again. He'll antagonize on purpose. He's hoping to be jailed, actually. Or at least he's hoping to force Merchan into an impossible scenario in which any decision that he makes is self-deprecating. And Trump is pretty good at antagonizing people. We've seen that throughout time. The use of the slogan, "Give me liberty or give me death," it echoes deep patriotic sentiment, number one. Although Trump is not a free speech purist, when you look at his political opponents in the Uniparty, he seems like almost an ANCAP by differentiation when you compare the two. But it also, again, because that's the slogan of the state of New Hampshire, I think it's also in a roundabout way almost a campaign pitch to a state that leans blue, but is theoretically within the realm of possibility for him to win. It certainly help with the New England vote in general. Could affect the state of Maine right next door. So I don't know what Merchan does at this point. I mean, the right decision is to literally ignore the antagonism. Is he going to be able to do that? Because it's very hard, it seems, for people when they are insulted by Donald Trump to not respond. And Merchan, being a judge, of course, wants to uphold my astute and solemn position as a justice on this court. I will not be mocked. Nobody's allowed to criticize me, or the clerk, or the prosecution, or any of the witnesses, or literally anyone else I tell them not to go after. What if Merchan, and this won't happen, it's hyperbolic, but in theory, with the extensive capabilities of this gag order, it could be a thing. What if he were to say, you're not allowed to criticize Joe Biden? What would happen? Is there any methodology by which that can be challenged? No, not really. It seems like Merchan believes himself to be an emperor, but the thing is, the person that he's attempting to persecute here happens to be the former president of the United States and presumptive nominee for a major political party and probable next president of the United States. Even Merchan pointed this out. When CNN's panel worries about Stormy's testimony damaging the prosecution, and I agree with that basic sentiment, the case is going off the rails. We've not seen anything like this before in U.S. history, by the way. We've never seen the prosecution of a former president of the United States. Now we see 4 of them, 3 of which are criminal cases involving felony charges, but they're all spurious. They're all falling apart. It's almost like, again, it's like watching the most stupid orangutan in the zoo, presented with 2 buttons. One shocks its nads, the other one dispenses fruit. And it just really just doesn't understand that that one is the button it's supposed to press, and it just keeps shocking its nads, to the point at which you wonder whether it likes it and has some sort of paraphilia. That's about all. Peace out.